Hey everybody, we're out here in the hardy citrus trial rows, and I was taking a look specifically at our seedling selections and just kind of assessing how they've done and how much cold damage they have now that things are thawing out and a bit warmer, and we're actually able to tell what was damaged and what wasn't. For those of you who don't know, sometimes you can't tell if a citrus is damaged by the cold until it actually thaws out. So it is revealing some extra damage on some of these, but luckily really only one of our seedling selections, being pseudo-yuzu, looks significantly damaged. It's not dead, believe it or not. It's doing better than Karaji is, but it is definitely the worst performer. Other than that, everything else is doing surprisingly well. I mean, Tri 4N is doing excellent. Bai Tri is doing probably just as well or slightly better than Lamandarin. Dimicelli is doing okay, but it does have some fairly significant damage that we're seeing now. Improved Swingle looks incredible, easily the best of the group, or probably tied as being one of the best, right next to Tri 4N, Tri-clem-yuz number 1, and Tri-clem-yuz number 2, all looking like our best performers here. And that's going to kind of get into our theme of the video here, is I want to inspire some of you, and I also want to kind of declare for myself, this is something I'm taking a greater interest in, and I'm going to pursue further with future selections and future hybrids, which is crossing pepita type citrus, specifically hardy ones like yuzu, clem-yuz, Tri-chang Lemon, Tri-chang pepita, Sudachi, everything in that realm, crossing those with trifoliate orange, and that could be anything, Poncerus Plus, Flying Dragon, you name it. But so far from what I'm seeing, I'm actually surprised that such crosses don't exist already, or perhaps they're just not, readily available. But so far, these Clem-yuz 2-2 and trifoliate orange hybrids are doing incredible, and they have a lot of good qualities that they're borrowing from both parents. And the two selections I have out here specifically, although very different in those qualities, are both very well suited for the cold temperatures in different ways. So I'll kind of explain, starting with number 2 here, which is easily probably the hardiest selection that we have. Main reason being, it shows not only no damage at all, but you could barely see it here, it is fully deciduous. So it began dropping its leaves leading up to this cold weather, and it's now dropped all of them now that we've had a bit more. But this plant looks great. It really strongly resembles the trifoliate orange, despite being a hybrid and despite the seed coming from a Clem-yuz fruit. So this one, strongly resembling the trifoliate orange, definitely leads me to believe it is of great hardiness. I'm not sure how it compares to some of the other citranderins and citranges, but I think this one is pretty up there from what I'm telling. It seems to have better dormancy than a lot of other established varieties that we have out here too. So it has really, really good qualities. It just doesn't have a lot of fragrance in the leaves, which leads me to believe, between that and its actual morphology, that the fruit might not taste amazing. They might lean a little bit more towards the trifoliate orange side, but that's okay. I think this might still be a really good one to send up to Mel in Pennsylvania and have him try out, as well as some of you who also live in cold climates. If I'm able to propagate enough of these, this is one I think has zone 6 potential. I'm just guessing now, but I really hope it does. Now, Tri-clem-yuz number 1 here easily outgrew everything besides it here. This one more strongly resembles Clem-yuz 2-2, so the other parent. And you could tell by these thicker, glossier, dark green leaves, which are really beautiful actually. And it has very upright, vigorous growth, which is reminiscent of Clem-yuz 2-2, which we have over here. Note the thicker, darker leaves, and well, this one's a bit bushy, but they actually, for all my plants, have tended to be more upright. Similar with yuzu too, they just grow more upright than bushy. So this specific Tri-clem-yuz #1 hybrid here definitely took on a lot more qualities of that Clem-yuz 2-2. And I actually think, and this could be from the Trifolia or just some deeper yuzu genetics, it seems to also have very good dormancy. So this stopped growing on time to lignify and harden up. So it's got some really good bark here. And I gotta say, despite being fairly evergreen from what I'm seeing, at first I thought it might be a little deciduous, but now I'm actually leaning towards this being an evergreen citrus. And similarly, Swingle here, these guys have resisted the cold so much better than a lot of the other citrus out here. And I don't know if it's because they have those thicker, waxier leaves, and there's something to that in giving them resistance to the wind and the cold, because keep in mind the microclimate that we're in, we have full sun, we have full wind exposure, and I don't know if we're slightly below elevation or not, but we do experience very cold temperatures out here in the field versus in some of the residential areas. So we are pretty much in the worst microclimate possible for growing citrus in this specific area. And that's what's great, because it will push these to their limit where they otherwise wouldn't be. And I really want to find out, what can survive here reliably. And that also gives me ideas for what might survive in even colder zones. And so far, that's what's giving me hope for these hybrids here, because they are doing exceptionally well. And I'm actually hoping we see some lower temperatures so we can evaluate these further. But so far, they have experienced just above 15 degrees Fahrenheit with the winds and eventually the full sun the following day. So these are pretty extreme conditions that we've already noticed bark splitting on the Karaji and some of these citrus looking a bit desiccated out here. But Tri-clem-yuz #1 looks completely unscathed. There is no damage on the stem. It looks beautiful. I don't even see much discoloration from the sun, because some of these on the side that was getting all the wind and sun, it's actually like a paler yellow. I saw it a little bit with the Sacaton here, where this is lighter green and this is darker green. It's not a huge difference, and this is actually a fairly hardy specimen here. But it is something I'm noticing, that some of these very hardiest strains here, like the improved Swingle we have here, it's green all the way through. It doesn't have any of that. So that leads me to believe that is one of the ways you can tell here which of these are more resilient and more resistant to desiccation and damage from the wind and sun during the winter months. So these are qualities I'm looking for, on top of, again, general dormancy and the ability for these plants to shut down and harden up before the cold hits. And I think we're going to have a really testy winter and spring here, because we're about to see 70, almost 75 degrees tomorrow, and it was just 15 degrees, what was it, last week? And then next week we're going to see back into the teens again. It's absolutely nutty. This is terrible weather for growing citrus, because some of these are going to want to wake up, and I'm sure approaching spring especially, that's going to be a big issue. But this is where I'm getting at here, is I think these Pepita and Pepita hybrids, crossing them with trifoliate orange kind of merges the best of both worlds, because you get that deeper dormancy like with the yuzu and like with the I-Chang Pepita, and odds are some of these will even be evergreen like the two of these here. But you also get those characteristics from the Trifolia orange, where sometimes you will get the deciduous nature like in Tri-clem-yuz #2. And these also tend to shut down and stop growing much earlier than a lot of the other hybrids here. So our Poncerus Plus, and I think we have Tuckahoe trifoliate there, our New York strain, they both stopped growing well in advance to the cold, which is great. And Poncerus Plus was actually behind some of these others, and it still managed to harden up on time. So that just kind of shows you the difference with those varieties there. But we do have two other Tri-clem-yuz strains that we're going to be testing next year. And I brought them out to show you guys because they just weren't big enough and they weren't mature enough to bring out here to test alongside everything else. But given another year, they will grow up strong enough to put out here. And this one here, I believe, is our number 3, so Tri-clem-yuz number 3. And as you can tell, it's fairly intermediate actually between 1 and 2, where it is trifoliate, pretty much fully, but it does have those longer middle leaflets, and it is, a little bit resemblant of the 2-2 if you kind of take those out of the equation there. But it looks pretty typical of a 50-50 hybrid. I expect this one to, kind of be in between. I think Tri-clem-yuz number 1 has the best potential for good fruit quality. This one is probably one of the next runners up, but I still don't think it's going to be amazing. Similarly, we also have number 4 here, and this one has very interesting leaves. I actually have another clone of this too, but as you can see, the leaves are almost like a little serrated at the edges, and they tend to curve a lot. You get a lot of curvature in the leaves here, and they're thick and dark green, which is looking like a good sign. If that has anything to do with the hardiness, is that leaf thickness and waxiness being some sort of winter protection. But yeah, the leaf patterns are looking very interesting and different. It's similar in that it's primarily trifoliate, and you do get some bifoliate leaves in the mix, but it is also resembling Clem-yuz 2-2 a little bit more. So those two will be really interesting to test alongside these others. And so far, really promising results already, so I'm hoping that these live up to what we've seen. Now, I did bring out 2 additional players here, and I was really excited to find these because I was at stands where I originally got the fruit for these Clem-yuz 2-2, which were open pollinated, and he also had seedlings sprouted from an Tri-chang lemon fruit that was also open pollinated. And what do you know? 2 of those seedlings in that group looked a little bit different, and we had to look close altogether. But as you can tell, let's get that out of the way. That leaf is not an Tri-chang lemon. And let's see, there's more in there. Those leaves are not Tri-chang lemon. That leaf, focus, that leaf is not Tri-chang lemon. That leaf, you might expect more on an Tri-chang lemon seedling. Same with these. This particular seedling, we're calling it Tri-chang lemon number 1. Another very creative name there, combining both trifoliate orange and Tri-chang lemon, and as you can tell by the appearance too. But this particular cross here, this hybrid, has some interesting characteristics because for the most part, most of the leaves that look like Tri-chang lemon, just look like Tri-chang lemon. A lot of these unifoliate leaves with these larger petioles here, they don't have any additional leaflets, whereas these smaller, more rounded leaves here do have the additional leaflets, and they kind of blend in with the petiole itself there. They're shaped pretty different, so you can tell on those they're all rounded. I only had maybe 1 or 2 leaves on here that wasn't like that, and I ended up taking it off to experiment with a bit. So it can produce them, but so far the trend has been any trifoliate leaves that are popping up here are rounded, and any unifoliate leaves are not. So this is going to be a very interesting plant in terms of its appearance, and I do already have this grafted out on some rootstock in our smaller greenhouse, so I will get this out in the field too. But we're going to make a couple different ones to test out here because I do think this one has a lot of promise too. I like the idea. I really like Tri-chang lemon actually. It's like a big yuzu to me. So crossing that with a trifoliate or trifoliate hybrid, I think can only yield good results in terms of flavor and hardiness being superior to some other 50-50 hybrids. And on top of that, it's just a seedling, so we can't make too many judgments at the moment. But it does seem to be a little bit daylight sensitive, which is something I'm looking out for on some of these too, is whether or not they're sensitive to and stop growing with reduced daylight hours leading into the winter. So some of these, like number 3 as well, little less the case with number 4 and Tri-chang Lemon number 1 here. They don't seem to be growing much at all, even inside the greenhouse where temperatures are warmer. Now we do have a sibling seedling, Tri-chang Lemon number 2 here, and this one has no problem growing in the greenhouse where it is warmer, but it does still experience nighttime temperatures into the 30s. That's still very normal, and the tender growth does just fine handling that cold. I think it experienced 31 degrees with no wilting whatsoever. But this one is predominantly unifoliate, so it's quite different in appearance to Tri-chang Lemon number 1 here. As you can tell, the leaves are quite different, but both of them you could see those enlarged petioles. And on this one, it's a little harder to tell that it's a trifoliate hybrid because some of the leaves fell off, but it did have a trifoliate leaf there. It's got a bifoliate leaf there, and I think there was one more around here somewhere. But basically, it does have a few bifoliate leaves in the mix, but it's predominantly unifoliate. And again, there's not much I could tell at this stage. We do have it grafted out, but this one maybe is a little less daylight sensitive. I'm not exactly sure, but it's open for evaluation here. So I'm still really excited to have 2 more hybrid selections out here because these were totally unanticipated. I was not planning on these, and we just ended up finding them by sheer luck. So thank you to Stan for letting us have these seedlings here, and we're definitely going to have to give him some credit for some of these because some pretty amazing things are happening at his little farm there, and we're getting some really awesome seedlings out here, so that is all very exciting. So anyways, guys, I just wanted to show you those particular hybrids with Tri-chang Lemon and Clem-yuz 2-2. I think if this is repeated, it has a lot of potential to produce many more seedlings that can resist the cold very well and maybe have a chance at producing some better fruit, because yuzu and Clem-yuz are definitely some of the more edible citrus, hardy citrus that do not have trifoliate in them, and they just have some amazing fragrances too. I'm hoping that comes out in some of these seedling strains here, because if we get some of that yuzu smell, that might actually even help blunt some of the off flavors or those pine flavors that you might get with some of these hybrids. So fingers crossed. I'm noticing some nice fragrances, especially from number 1 there, so that could be really good in terms of fruit quality. And again, if we just get any bit of that aroma mixed in there, I think that'll be really good, and we'll have some fruit that can at least serve as a lemon substitute, but a higher quality lemon substitute than some of the other hardy types, like a standard run-of-the-mill swingle, for instance. So we'll see about that, but I hope you guys enjoyed this little look at our new seedlings and seeing how some of these have already done out here, and lots more information to collect as we keep going through the winter. We'll see how the 2 out here do, and then next year we will have the rest out here to compare to. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.